Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to the Whatever Comes to Mind podcast. I'm Heaven, this is Bailey, and this is Evan. And today we're going to dive into a whole bunch of things. So first, we have the news on right now, so we should talk about the fact that we basically just put in a trade war with our closest allies in Canada. And I think that's a crazy thing for the United States of America to do. And I want to talk about tariffs because I don't think many people know what tariffs is. So a tariff is a tax on an imported good to the United States. So if we was importing something from China and it cost $100, if they put like a $25 tax on it, that means so if it was originally gonna cost us $100 to buy it from like the Nike outlet and they put a tariff on it, the tariff is gonna be added to the cost, and the consumer, we're gonna pay the tariff because the company isn't gonna pay it for us. Like they're gonna tax it on, like they're gonna take the tax at first, and then when it's time for us to pay, we're gonna pay for the tariff and the good versus just the good. Okay, that's what a tariff is. So when China isn't gonna feel the impact of the tariff. We the consumers are. So let's get that out the way first. Okay. And also we paused the aid to Ukraine, and I think his reasoning is because of peace. But in every war that America has fought in, we've never been neutral. And like in World War I, we were given ammunition and guns, and our economy was being funded by World War I. So we're never neutral in any situation. And it's either we're gonna join the fight now and people are gonna die, or we're just gonna join it after and people are gonna die. America always joins the wars. Okay, but now.
Going off the treatment of Ukraine, we could talk about the altercation, you could call it, between Zelensky and Trump and Vance.
Wait, first we gotta do something. Tell the people why they should listen to y'all. You go first, like why they should listen to what you have to say. My bad.
No, you're good.
Well, you don't have to, right? Like ultimately that's your choice. But I feel like listening to other people's perspectives is important because it broadens your own perspective and it broadens how you think about things. And I'm just a person, and I'm here to talk because I was asked to talk. I'm going to talk regardless. Whether you listen to me or not, I'm going to talk. So ultimately that's up to you, but I feel like you should listen to me because I feel like I have a lot of important things to say.
I mean, same here. I'm just a person. Like you don't have to listen to me. But I think that it's important, especially in the environment that we have right now, that people listen to those that they don't agree with. We get trapped in this bubble sometimes where we only listen to something that makes sense to us, and that leads to biases and
polarization.
Yeah, polarization. An example of this, right? Just Trump talked about uniting the political parties to help America, and then proceeded to dog on the Democrats for 30 minutes. How long has it been? I don't know. And listening to these other people that you don't agree with, and not even calling them others, these people, right? You have to listen to the people of the United States and your peers and the people that you go to college with, right? Like Bailey and I may not agree on everything, but we agree that it's important to talk to each other, and you should listen to the other people.
Yeah. A professor of mine said that everything you think other people do think it or should think it. That's not how the world works. It's full of 8 billion different perspectives. So, okay. Now we get into
So, I forget which, it was Saturday, one of these past days. Zelensky was invited over to the Oval Office to hold a press conference with Trump and Vance, talking about an arms deal to Ukraine. I believe it was an arms deal. It was also a mineral deal too, of exchange for minerals for U.S. funding and U.S. protection. That did not end up happening. Zelensky ended up storming out of the White House for a good reason. Trump and Vance essentially attacked him, and one of our allies attacked Ukraine and sided with Russia, telling them that they should just accept the deals that Russia are proposing to them, which would include giving away territory that was annexed by Russia during the invasions. And this is very uncharacteristic of America historically. We have almost always tried to. I mean, I don't know. We've sided with some really fucked up people. I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
I feel like when we did side with Stalin back
Mhm.
then, but at that time it was viewed as the lesser of two evils. And also, I do think the fact that we had cameras in that meeting was a good thing, because the way they would have tried to spin it, if it was no like transcripts, if it was no camera footage, the way they would have tried to make it seem like Zelensky was like tweaking. I think it was good that we had footage of that. And also, why does what a wartime president is wearing matter? And let's say he had on a nice suit. What they would have said was, his people are dying, and he has on this nice suit. Like, so it's nothing he can do to win.
That has been Zelensky's position, was to be on the front lines with his people. I think Trump and Vance tried to deteriorate that image by doing what they always do and claiming that he was corrupt, that U.S. gave them money and he wasn't using it all, and so he was pocketing the money and he's corrupt, and they call him a dictator, which is crazy when
he won like 70% of the vote over there.
Yes, and it's also wartime, and even if they were to hold a vote again during the wartime, that wouldn't be a 100% accurate representation of their people. Because they have a lot of people on fronts trying to fight the Russians, but they also have annexed territories that have Ukrainians there that would not be able to vote because they're under the occupation of Russia. So that's my whole thing.
So one of the takes I saw about the war was, if you love your country, if you want Ukraine to win so bad, why don't you go over there and fight the war? And I feel like, and that's like the side from the right, but when people on the left be like, no uterus, no opinion, they also don't like that. So it's like, y'all are giving each other the same argument. And that's just not right. And like, I don't have to be Gordon Ramsay to know when a meal is bad. So I don't need to be one of the political leaders, or I don't need to be a soldier to recognize that a situation isn't right.
Agreed.
Any thoughts?
I don't know too much about anything going on with Trump, because I decided to not feed into it at all. I just feel like it would cause me way too much anxiety.
Go Queen, protect your peace. Protect your peace.
I don't like anything that he's doing. I don't like anything that JD Vance is doing. I don't think anything that they're doing is congressional or constitutional.
He tried to call the Constitution unconstitutional. The Equal Protection Clause in under the 14th Amendment, he said that was unconstitutional.
He's such a fucking dumbass. They all get on my nerves, honestly, and so I just have not been following along on anything. And if I find out something, it's against my will.
Every piece of information you get is for
piece of information I find out is against my will.
So what? Okay, we could talk about something that we all know. People will vote against their own self-interest to further push hate, sexism,
Absolutely.
and all of that. If you work for the federal government, why would you vote for someone whose platform is smaller government? Like, you're a federal employee, and I've been seeing a lot of videos. It was like, we regret our vote. No, you don't. You regret that your vote hurted you, because when they ran on a mass deportation platform,
and they always have. That's never changed.
So you're not mad that, like, if it was everyone else but you losing your job, you would not find an issue with it. So you don't find an issue with what you voted for. You just thought he would never do it to me.
The lack of sympathy that some Americans have is appalling, truly, because, as long as it doesn't affect me, it's okay. Even if it does affect other people, even people that are like my neighbors or people that are in my community, like, it's fine. But as long as it doesn't happen to me, it's cool. And I think that's sick, truly.
Also, trickle-down economics has never, ever worked. giving more money to the people at the top, or like making their tax cuts, giving them more money per year, that has never worked for the people at the bottom.
Never. Poverty's at an all-time high, unemployment's rising up, and inflation's going up, and because people can't afford nothing. And
did you see the stock market crash?
I did. I'm not an expert on the stock market.
Not at all.
When talking with people who are studying that, I've been told that you should not look at the market short term. While I agree with that fundamentally, you have to think about...
They probably said that same sentence in 1928.
Exactly. And so, yes, it's going down, and yes, it might go back up, but with the tariff wars that were put in place last night, it's more likely than not than the the market will continue to crash. I wanted to bounce back to something that Bailey said about like not caring. There is a poem from the Holocaust era that is put at the end or at some point in most Holocaust museums, and it's a very famous one. We were taught it in school about, I was not a communist, and so I did not speak up. I was not a Jew. I was not, a political opponent, and I did not speak up. And once they started to come for me, there was no one left to speak up for me. And so this has happened before. It's very cyclical, the things that are happening right now.
Okay. History will always repeat itself if you let it. And that's why it's not like if it was only the major corporations plotting against the little guy, that would make so much more sense because it benefits them. But it's people who voting against their own self-interest. Like, they're not even being selfish correctly. Like, the selfish thing to do is be like, only tax cuts for the middle class, raise tax for the, like, they don't work in a way that actually benefits them. They just work in a way that hurts the people that they don't like, even if it hurts them in the process. And I've noticed that they're moving the goalpost a bit, because before it was like the other country would pay tariffs, but now I think you're going to see in the media they're going to be like, it's more patriotic to pay for more American grown stuff. So that might be your take, but that was not your take at the beginning. So just don't move the goalposts. Just let's keep some strict rules about how you look at political figures.
I feel like that's a pattern that often happens in this country. It's like, okay, well, I didn't get what I wanted at first, so I'm just going to keep moving that goalpost until I get what I wanted in the beginning. But you never get what you wanted in the beginning because you didn't really want what you wanted in the beginning. You thought that's what you wanted, but it's not. It's not in your own self-interest, nor is it in anybody else's interest around you.
I saw a thing that Canada's going to charge 100% tax on Teslas, and I don't know what that means, but I think it means if something costs $200, it's going to cost like $400 when you try to buy it from them. If that's what 100% tax is, if it's the total cost. Double, yeah.
Double. The it's not, tax would be 100% of the original payment. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's what happens. Okay, so what you want to talk to Bailey about? I'm excited about this.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about, like, America first, because there's so much to talk about.
America first, always.
Well, not America first, which is not actually America first. It's the far right's version of America, which excludes anyone under DEI, anyone under federal aid, anyone who isn't a rich trillionaire.
Put a finger down if that applies to any.
Exactly. So, I feel like the reason that people are voting against their interest is because they feel
it's the marketing of it. America first is like a great thing to say. Like, we're putting our country first, we're patriotic, and you're trying to take away food stamps to the people that need it. And you're trying to take away federal aid. And the black people who work themselves up into a respectable middle class in federal jobs, you're taking that away. But it's America first.
I think there's a lot of disinformation as well. People taking everything at, like, first glance, believing what, for example, Doge has put out.
Do you really
right?
think they was spending $19 million on sushi in the Pentagon? Like,
No, it's a front. And there were like the top 5 biggest budget cuts that the Doge administration has like announced were all found to be false, or misleading, and they then removed them and covered them up. Elon Musk, the trillionaire who runs how many different companies, somehow just fucked up when it was the United States and our social security numbers and our
why
money.
is a person who sells weapons to the government and makes money from the government in charge of budgeting the government? You cannot be the juror and the judge. You can either, or like the prosecutor and the defendant, you can either make money from selling defense weapons, which I think that's like, okay, somebody got to sell them, okay. Or you could be in charge of the budget and how we're using our money. I just don't think that. I think that's a very conflicting position to be in.
For sure. And there should be strict measures in place to prevent that, but most of the measures that have been put in our government to stop these things are being steamrolled. It's an attack on our senses. Trump in his first 40 some odd days has made 100+ executive orders.
And one of them, he declared that everyone was female, because in the executive order, it was like you will be referred to upon your sex at conception, and at conception, you turned into a boy, and if you didn't turn into a boy, you was just gonna be born as a girl. So
yes, they did change the U.S.'s official stance on gender, making it only male and female. They also just recently changed the official language of America to English.
America's official language wasn't English for a reason.
Yeah, because it's a country of all places and all.
If it was, I really think that if it was supposed to be English, it would have been English in the Constitution. If it was supposed to be, if that's the goal that our founding fathers had, and also. And I did use that example, but I also don't like when they be like, our founding fathers wouldn't have liked this. Our founding fathers wouldn't have liked us sitting in the room like this at all. So
they wouldn't even like the fact that I was alive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
I
would like to touch back on the America First thing. I think they're putting America first. I think. Like expanding Social Security is putting America first. Because I think veterans' rights and veterans' benefits is putting America first. I think so. Don't you know how you have to register to vote? You cannot tell me that you are a Blue Lives Matter, that you think police lives matter if you don't agree with gun regulation. Because the amount of gun control helps police officers. Like if every time you go to vote, you need your voter registration card and an ID. If you needed an ID in a gun card and it was like a system, and in any gun you find a serial number and a face on it, that will make the police jobs way easier. And you also cannot convince me that you are a Blue Lives Matter person if you believe that the people who attacked the police officers on January 6th deserve pardons, because that's not very
Blue Lives Matter of you.
Not at all. And also I think public education expanding is a good form of America First. You putting the children first, the future first. The child tax credit is a good way, and free lunch. So if you're against those things, how are you America First?
It's also important to note, in terms of gun control, that the Republicans have restricted gun control before. When the Black Panthers took up arms against the states.
That's why California has the best gun control laws in the state. I mean, it's in the states. Not because they're so liberal. It's because they were scared of the Black Panthers, and they were open carry state. And they used to carry the big guns around. Then they changed it once the Black people started carrying the guns around.
And they said the same things that we're saying about ARs, right? Oh, no one in civilian life should have ARs to protect themselves. Those are weapons of destruction. And so really, it's not about gun control at all. It's about the people who are holding the guns. And if they agree with the Republicans and if they are supportive of the Republicans. So, I mean, that's important to note because there's so much misinformation about, all of the Republican Party stances. There are people who don't believe in the party switch, who believe that the Democratic Party that is here today is the same Democratic Party that founded the KKK, which is false.
They think that the Democratic Party of today needs to apologize for slavery.
But it was really their party, just under a different name. They switch. And so the simple disinformation like this is what's making the people of America fall under this fascist regime. I mean, just yesterday I had to explain to my cousin that I had to argue with him, really, about whether black people had more success in the 50s than they do today. Like, that's a real argument that I had to have with someone.
What was his, if you don't mind sharing?
I can read the chats. His stance was that the average income of black people was higher and the single motherhood rates were lower.
But the war on drugs is what's created the single mother rate increase in the father. Okay, I'm about to go all Dr. Umar right now. Okay,
I'm for it.
So, what the problem in the black community? One of them is fatherlessness and being fatherless. Being fatherless obviously means you don't have a father, but fatherlessness is a male figure in your household or around your household. You have a mentor, and that is one of the biggest problems in the black community, and that is because the war on drugs. So the 3 strikes and you're out thing, that has what's caused the turmoil and the high rates of incarceration in the black community that we're still dealing with the effects of today. And also when they planted crack in our communities, that's why you could say that the quality of, if that was his art, he probably didn't even say that, did he?
I mean, he sent me this whole paragraph. He said I can read this to you. Black America is worse now than the 50s, which is shown by income, crime rates, and single motherhood rates. There are 3 reasons that this happened. The Great Society Project by Lyndon B. Johnson spent $30 trillion since the 1960s, and this hurt Black America because of programs like sectionate housing, bad welfare, and the Divorce Your Husband and Marry the Government program. The second thing he said was the culture. People don't want to speak about it because of fear of being called a racist, but Thomas Sowell and Clarence Thomas, both prominent black figures in the Republican.
Clarence Thomas worked for Monsanto and then wrote a ruling on whether Monsanto could completely monopolize crops or not. So that's who Clarence Thomas is. He is a Supreme Court justice as well.
I mean, and it's a prominent thing to bring up an example of someone who is your opposition, who agrees with you, and use that to say that you then have the support of the entire opposition. I mean, I know that's happened. I mean, we can talk about it later with Israel, where they bring in Arab or Muslim citizens who agree with them, but that does not represent the entirety of...
And that's one of the problems in the black community. Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, nor Malcolm X, neither one of them represented the whole black community. No one can represent the whole community. I represent myself fully, she represents herself fully, and he represents himself fully. But he also represents his family. He also represents his school. But he doesn't, he does that on accident. And no one fully represents each other in the black community, but we all reflect upon each other. Meaning, one bad interaction with a black person can lead to black people are so, or they are always. And that's the problem. Just because you meet one group, one person or one group out of a whole, that's not a reflection on any group in its entirety.
And thinking that is absolutely fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Back to what you were saying.
I mean, I was really mad when he was talking about the culture, because black culture...
I'm sorry, is he white?
Yeah, he's white. Like, he has no reason to be able to talk about this, and I don't... It's a problem, at least in my community, and I've seen it I mean, I had another conversation the
When
other
it
day.
comes to white people talking about blackness, I don't think you guys need to close y'all mouth. I just think y'all need to open y'all ears. You have two ears and one mouth for a reason. I do think you got because we're all in society together. Black people and white people are not separate, and it's like we're interacting with each other now, but a white person trying to tell our community what it needs versus listening to what we need and what we think is wrong is insane. And then saying things like blacks, like, it's black people or African Americans. Blacks is not an appropriate thing to say.
Negroes.
Yeah. Okay. And I think in this day and age, critical thinking, we have all the information you could ever want at your fingertips, and yet the critical thinking is at an all-time low. And I think it's because people didn't like English class, because the curtains was never blue for no reason. Like if they described us this room and they told us the color of everything on the wall, they told us that for a reason. And even if they didn't, they could have told us that for a reason. And that's what critical thinking is. It's the ability to take a piece of information and ask what, why, how, and when, and not just take it at face value.
Media literacy is a big problem, especially now, because you'll see posts online comparing, for example, the Trump administration to like the French revolutionists from Les Miserables, right? Because during the presidential
when they took Anne
eat
Marie
the rich, yeah.
Let them eat cake.
Let them eat cake, yeah.
Yeah.
And there are people who are comparing themselves to that because they find one or two, they see themselves as revolutionaries, but they refuse to read into what those revolutionaries actually fought for and how those compare to their own views. It's just horrible because you have these writers who wrote about, George Orwell, right? About government, the government taking over your life and suppressing.
Yeah.
And
when you do it, you're a revolutionary, but when they do it, they're terrorists. They're a terrorist organization. Also, fascists hate any form of protest because that conflicts with their power. Like, also, no regular group gets called a cult like that. Only groups that show a cult-like tendencies get called cults. Like, if your organization is saying we are the only way and everyone else is wrong, and it has like the us versus them mentality, and it uses very in all those slogans and all, like, these are things that if you study all the cult, or the famous cults that you will see, they're all having like the same type of pattern. Yes, thank you. Same type of patterns.
Okay. In terms of like, we can kind of go back to something that was mentioned, people voting against their interests. I had this conversation with like one of my tutors who happens to be of Indian descent.
Mm-hmm.
And we have these groups of people who were oppressed at a time. Similarly, my own community, the Jews, were oppressed at one time. But people don't believe that you can be both oppressed and be an oppressor. And there are these communities who claim, oh, I'm not this because, I'm Indian or I'm Jewish, like we've always been oppressed. And they use that as an excuse to say that they have not been, they cannot do wrong now. And that a lot of the groups like Indian descent, right? You have Latinos for Trump. You have all sorts of these groups of people who think that now they're...
Okay, white people for Trump is not a thing. They're MAGA. But black people for Trump is black people for Trump. But Latinos for Trump is Latinos for Trump. Like, they're the only group that doesn't have a title. They're just MAGA. But the blacks for Trump are blacks for Trump. Asians for Trump. And I think that's like a very weird distinction between them.
I think it's a great representation of their entire belief system, actually.
That America's for the rich white,
Not even rich. You know how many poor people voted for Trump?
Yeah, but how
many poor white people?
Classism is a big thing in America too.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
And so, like you said, they're voting against their own self.
I do believe when
Yeah.
you get enough money, race doesn't matter. Like when you're at the upper echelons and they all in the meetings,
Absolutely.
I think the upper echelons of society is truly color blind and merit based. Merit based being how much money you have, but I do believe that the upper echelons of society is truly colorblind.
You think the Rothschilds and the Morgans and the Bushes and the DuPonts and the Rockefellers give a fuck about whether you're black or white or Asian or
How them
Latino?
checks sound when they
How
cash?
them checks looking?
and those people that are extremely rich for the reason that they haven't been disadvantaged in the American economy.
No,
The
because
only
they're
way
not.
to get a
Yeah.
$1 billion is through the expo. Unless you're an athlete, because they can get like two $500 million contracts like Shohei Ohtani. So unless you're like a professional athlete, the only way that I have seen people get that much money is through the exploitation and manipulation of other human beings.
Absolutely.
And
Blood money.
generational wealth. And the reason that DEI is so important, like now, is because of those things, that we have these groups of people who have been disadvantaged, who haven't had the 200 years to compound their money, who just recently were able to do business with people of other races.
Diverse DEI does not mean you have to hire me because I'm black or a woman. It means that you cannot
Tell me no.
not hire me just because of those things. Like, you have to look at my application, even though I am all of those things. It does not mean my blackness is getting me the job. It means my blackness is not making it so I cannot have a job.
Mm-hmm.
That's what DEI is. And DEI is not just in the workplace. Have you ever went on a ramp or in public? That's DEI. That's inclusion for the people who need wheelchairs. That's really what elevators are for. So they can get up and down. Any kid, if you ever had any extra time during the test, that's DEI. That's equitable, because we're not getting equal time, but you need this amount of time to get the same results as the rest of the kids. That's DEI. Heck, even bikers lanes is a form of DEI.
Anything that's inclusive.
Anything that's
or equitable or diverse.
Yeah.
I mean, we have DEI built into our voting system with
Yes,
the electoral college.
because people's in that one vote in Montana means more than one vote in California, because it's less of them. So, and that's why. And do you really think California, in the lowest populated state, deserves the same amount of senators? No, but they get them. How many people live in Alaska? How many people live in Texas?
How many people live in Wyoming?
And they all have the same amount of votes. So our political system is a form of DEI. And if it wasn't, then we'd just have the popular vote. But since it's the electoral college is a form of DEI, because it tries to give everyone's vote the same amount of weight.
That's what DEI is, just giving everyone equal opportunity. And I mean, if DEI...
Also, diversity. I'm sorry.
No, you're
Diversity is humanity's greatest strength. The reason that all the diseases didn't wipe us completely out, because some people had different genetic makeup, or some people just didn't get infected at all. And diversity is how humanity has stayed the most popular species on the planet. I don't know if it's 8 billion bugs or anything, but like that's how we became the dominant species of the planet, because of diversity and our genes being different and us looking different. And that's I do think America's greatest strength is diversity. Watch the Olympics. Like, the certain countries can only do one thing well, and they do it well, but we like 8 out of 10s in everything, and some things we 10 out of 10s in, because of our genetic diversity.
And I mean, even going to the Olympics, right? When you think about what the right thinks of America, it's totally different than how we're viewed and how we're represented. I mean, there were Asian Americans.
LeBron James is Captain America. He was America's flag bearer on our ship. He is Captain America.
Exactly.
Okay.
Do you want to move on to the other stuff?
What we all came here for?
I mean, yeah, because I didn't think y'all was going to talk about all this other stuff.
No, I mean,
Because I'm just, yeah.
Okay.
do you want to like start off and just talk about our two
Can y'all
positions?
talk about y'all heritage and positions?
Yeah.
Okay, you could go first.
So I am mixed with Black, African American, white, and Palestinian. My grandfather, my mom's dad, came here from Palestine in the 1960s. He was 18 years old. He came over on a ship, and he worked in South Dakota and got his green card. And he met my grandmother, who was Irish, and they both grew up on farms. So neither of them were rich, but they were going to school, and they got married, had kids, my mother and her sisters. And growing up, my mom experienced a lot of adversity. Because my grandfather was Palestinian. They often had their phones tapped by FBI agents. Somebody had broke into their house and like completely like vandalized their garage and like wrote racial slurs on the walls. And my grandpa was constantly fearing for his safety and his family's safety. And so with that, he never taught my mother Arabic or anything about Muslimism, because he was terrified of the repercussions that would come from it. And he had a very strong stance on Israelis because he was born before the occupation but lived through it. And so his family is still there now. He was the only one out of his family to come to the United States, and still is the only one to have came out. I still have family in the West Bank, in a small town called Sharif, and I talk to them every so often just to make sure that they're alive, and they are, and they're fine. But a lot of the things that have happened do affect me in a like emotional way, because I do have connections to it.
My family, before the Holocaust, on my dad's side, came to America. Not really sure exactly why, whether it was the political climate or just, the American dream. But they came here before the Holocaust, so they were lucky. My mother's side of the family is really mixed. We came, as far as we know, from Lithuania, Ukrainian territory, or what is Ukrainian territory now. We came from Poland and Russia, that area, as far back as we traced, Europe. But that's mostly because of the erasure of most of our history by the Nazis, and the inability to contact our relatives. When on my mom's side, her Zaida, so her maternal grandfather lost, 6 siblings. He was one of 7, and we lost a bunch of that family. And we came to America similarly on boats, into Ellis Island, into, New Orleans. And, we were immigrants, and we were welcomed at least somewhat in open arms. And we moved around a little bit, and part of our family switched from Judaism for similar reasons. My great-grandparents worked at a work camp, a labor camp, and so for them it was very traumatizing. And it was similarly fear of being persecuted for the same things that they were being persecuted for in Europe. And they came here, and my family has been here for 3 or 4 generations. And we've experienced different amounts of anti-Semitism or stuff like that at certain times. My grandfather refused to speak Polish or Yiddish at all, for fear that, you know, someone could rat him out. I mean, Jews, while they are now treated equally, they were still on that list of no blacks, no dogs, no Jews, no Irish. Like, we were still on that list. And so, I mean, that's we've been taught about Israel in Sunday school, and my family kind of idolizes it, I guess. Like, when I inquired to my family about, you know, the Holocaust, they told us stories, and they told us about how, you know, my great-grandmother, one of her biggest dreams was to go to Israel and see the land of the Jewish people. And because of all the things that she had gone through, she wanted to see a place where none of that existed. And that's kind of passed down from the Jewish community. But there's a divide in my community and even within my family about the position. The way I was raised, my family tried to teach me, you know, that everyone is equal, and like they specifically wanted me to have a black doctor so that I could understand that even though someone doesn't look like me, they can still be someone that I can trust, someone that, you know, I can go to with medical issues and, you know, trust them to treat me. And so my family has a very liberal, I feel like, take
Your
on it.
immediate family? Or?
Yeah, my immediate family, my mom, my brother, and my dad. And even, I mean, my aunt's a little bit different. She's a Jewish educator, but she's a little bit more to the right side, but she also does like support groups, Muslim, Jewish support groups, just to talk about, you know, the issue and generate familiarity and ties, because like, I mean, both of our experiences and our family experiences, they aren't too different. And so there's that part, and then I have, and this is like, it ties into the classism of it all. I feel like very successful side of my family, you know, family friends who live in very comfortable positions, and they tend to side more with the right in terms of Israel. And I feel like that kind of represents a lot of people who came to America at that specific time, where we've had the opportunity now to be successful, and we now forget where we were less than 100 years ago, and we've been kind of targeting people who were like us at one point, just because now we're up part of the upper echelon. And I mean, it's bad, you know, to see us turn away from the kind people that we were. I mean, you know, there were people in the civil rights movement at Selma, where we would help drive black protesters away to help them escape from the police who were trying to arrest them for doing nothing but having their First Amendment rights. Like, we've been in that position, and I feel like we've abandoned intersectionality.
I think that's what a lot of people are missing. And just to interrupt, like, you cannot, okay, so if, let's say, you are anti anything, and so if you're pro-black, you cannot be anti-gay, because there are gay black people, and that's just like the first thing I thought of. So, and that's where the intersectionality comes in. So it's like, he is a white man, but he's also a Jewish man, so he understands the discrimination, not as much or in a different way than what someone else would face, but if he's with someone who's also faced like discrimination, that's where the intersectionality comes in, and that's where they could like relate and try to understand each other. Okay.
And that's been an important thing in my family. I mean, I've had talks with my dad, right, about if if you as a person have to walk around and you don't have the ability to hide the things that people prejudice against you, since I have that privilege, I should be obligated to help you, because I can go out and I can say all the things that you would like, that would help the people who don't have that privilege, but I can hide my identity. I, as a white man, can go out there without having those prejudices against me, right? I go out there and they see me as a white man, right? But I still hold the, you know, the cross-sectionality, the fear of oppression and the history of oppression. So.
Okay. So, what do you guys, you can answer, whoever want to answer first, like, what do you guys think is, like, a viable solution to what's going on?
It's a hard question.
That's what we're here for, to ask the hard questions.
Do you want to go first?
Honestly, I don't feel like there is a solution at this point. I feel like there have been way too many people that have died in such a short, okay, let me rephrase that. There have been a lot of people in a short period of time that have been killed. And I feel like this has been going on for 80 years and there has not been a single, even like resolution to the situation. Like, how has it been that there has yet to be a resolution? Like, and for the October 7th event to have happened and the retaliation being so strong to the point where 10% of Gaza's population has died, has been killed, is insane to me. And I feel like people aren't taking that into consideration like they should, because that's a lot of people. That's an innumerable amount of people in, what, a year and a half? That's insane. And it's not going to get better because there have been, there have been offers for a solution, but nothing has been taken. And so there's been no change in that year and a half, and people are still getting killed for nothing. And so I don't think there is a solution at this point.
I feel like there's multiple factors to a solution. First of which is what Israel is doing wrong? And I think that yes, it is wrong. And the Palestinian people have been wronged. And so that leads us to the next thing is, how do you offer, what's it called?
Reparations.
Yeah, reparations. How do you offer reparations for these people who have been kicked out of their land, and who have been, you know, relentlessly killed in an apartheid state? I mean, you could make it not an apartheid state, but that's even more, like, that's harder to do than it is to just say. And it would take a while. And I feel like just because these solutions are hard doesn't mean that we should stop trying to pursue them. But that also comes from a privileged perspective. Obviously, like, I can say that because, you know, 40,000 people haven't been killed in the last year in Israel. So, I mean, there's obviously that factor.
I'm sorry, you said 40,000 people in Israel have been killed?
No, they haven't. I was referring to the 40,000 people who have been, or the statistic that has been passed around, the 40,000 people, innocent civilians, innocent Palestinian civilians in Gaza.
You said 40,000?
That's what I've heard. I don't know if that's 100% accurate.
280,000.
280,000. So
10% of Gazans.
Yeah. So that's even worse, right? 280,000 people. How do you give reparations for that?
I think the first thing, unless the country or place that's doing that, unless they acknowledge that they're wrong, it will never. Like, they have to acknowledge that. Obviously I'm not that educated on what's going on. I have tried to educate myself, but I do think a country fighting for its independence and its pride is not doing that. Is not the wrong thing, but not acknowledging that the way you're going about it is very inhumane, and cutting off aid for them during Ramadan. That is a war crime.
Slap in the face.
Like, that is crazy. So I do think, and I think that's like one of the big differences between how America treats black people and how Germany responded. Like, the reason that swastikas are illegal is because Germany feels mad, and you could wear your Confederate flag all you want to, because America doesn't feel bad about what happened. So I definitely think acknowledging, if there's no recognition of how you going about what you're doing is wrong, then nothing will ever change.
I completely agree.
We could. So the next thing would be, which type of solution do we want, or which type of solution is even possible? I think a one-state solution isn't possible, and I think you and I can agree on that. I mean, I don't think it should just be Israel, because that would be a slap in the face to the Palestinian people, and it would just be unfair.
Also, let's say we get the two-state solution, who's going to draw the borders? Because it's like two things. Both of them are probably not going to agree on the border, so it'll have to be like how they did in I think at the end of World War I or II, when they had to redraw the borders of the countries. But it was people who never lived in those countries redrawing the borders. So to us, it's like coloring on a map. But like the language and all the culture and stuff of the redrawing of the borders, like how would that work? Like, who would do it? I guess that would be the question.
I mean, borders were drawn, and those borders were then changed, and so I feel like you can't just go back to those borders. Like, you can't just say, oh, let's go back to before the 6-Day War, or go back to, because we had those borders and they were disrespected. You know what I mean? So that's definitely...
My whole thing is with borders is that at one point it was 100% Palestinian territory, and now it's 15%, and now 85% of what Palestine was is now Israel. I feel like there are certain cities that were Palestinian cities but are now Israeli cities, are essentially our homage to Palestine as a whole, like Jerusalem and Bethlehem and Nazareth, and like all of those historic cities that are still talked about and are still here today. Those should be given back, because I feel like while ancient Israel was a thing some 3,000 odd years ago, those cities came later and were part of Galilee, and which was Galilee then, but is now Palestine. And I think 80 years shouldn't have done that to thousands of years of history.
I definitely...
No, you go.
I definitely agree, because the erasure of Palestinian history it's bad. Yes. And I feel, I mean, I agree with you on giving back the cities that were historically, Palestinian, back to the Palestinian people. I mean, I don't think that way of Jerusalem. I feel like Jerusalem should be like international territory for anyone. It shouldn't, And I don't know.
But see, my thing is, when talking about things should be available to everybody, Israel isn't available to Palestinians.
Yeah.
So to say that, well, this city should be international. Well, why not start by opening it up to back up to Palestinians?
I agree. I think the first step to peace is to get the Israeli right-wing government out of control of Israel. I mean, Netanyahu's a war criminal. He deserves to be in jail or killed for the things that he's done. And there is no path towards peace if we don't eliminate extremism from the Israeli government. I think that while the elimination of Palestinian extremism is somewhat important, I feel like it's been used as a scapegoat into just the extermination of Palestinians in general. And I feel like that has to be changed for us to ever find, for the world and for our groups to ever find peace. Like, we need to stop using scapegoats. We need to stop, hating each other and associating, like, every Palestinian with Hamas, or associating every Israeli or, Jew with the Netanyahu government. And there are people who support both on both sides, but that shouldn't be held against them. Like, we should get rid of, you know what I'm talking about? Sorry, I'm not articulating my points well today.
Okay. But. Well, in lighter news, to cancel the track team.
Yeah.
Why?
How?
How do you...
Okay, universities are a lot like insurance companies, and if you've ever watched The Incredibles, you know what I mean. They will sell you this dream, and then when you need them the most, they will do whatever it takes to, like, try to get off on you. And so, like, when you recruit somebody, you like, yeah, the next 4 years of your life, you'll be the best track star you can be. We're gonna get you right. No, they not. That's not gonna happen. It's like, what's gonna happen to their scholarships and all of that? So that's what I'm wondering about. Like, I think that's so messed up to do.
Because the same thing to Lindenwood.
They canceled their track.
Well, they did the opposite. They put more money into their sports programs, and they took away other sports. So, like, they're D1 in football, but they took away from other organizations to make it so that they could have, like, a good stadium and a good program.
Oh, so we took away track, but what did we get in return?
Nothing.
I mean, they're doing a lot of renovation on campus.
They've been doing that since before I even got here.
And I mean, it also has to do with donors. From my experience, I've talked with the dean about some of this, and I've heard some things, and I do not talk for him. This is just from my personal experience, but a lot of it is about appeasing donors. They have a lot of very wealthy people who sit at meetings, and if they don't make them happy, then it's not good for them. And so they're just trying to appease, again, the trillionaires, billionaires, and not caring about us. These people just want their name on a building.
For us to be their main concern, it sure doesn't seem like it. It's like, it's hard. It would be so hard for me. It would be so hard for them to sell me on, you're always our main concern, when you just took away the sport that I love the most.
Y'all just took away my federal funding.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they took away, like, they've been taking away stuff just from on-campus students. I feel like
Our dining halls? Parking?
I wasn't here when we had Provisional House open. But
I didn't either.
Let's get a road to, like, Oak Hall so that, like,
please.
I don't have to walk a mile just to get to my dorm room.
Please. Bro, the walk from the garage to here is, like, 80 miles.
And even the walk from the parking lot is bad.
Oh, it's Oak Hall. Okay, I like that Oak Hall is ducked off, right? Like, it's just chilling.
And
But no one can find it.
No one can
Oak
find it. Is invisible on the map.
Yes.
You cannot find Oak Hall for some reason.
For some reason, you just drive right past it.
Have you guys ever ordered food?
Yes, and they don't know where they're going, and
They stay at the nursing building. They stay at the nursing building.
See, my they've been going around back.
They send them to the back every.
Or like they take them because you know
I've
the
never even
road's
been to the back.
closed.
Yeah. They
So
take them down
road-
South
yeah.
Drive or whatever that turn is that you're not supposed to make. They make them make
They
that
make
turn.
that turn every time.
Yeah. So and it's like it gets like super dark around here. The lights,
Yes.
it's not enough lighting.
No.
It's actually like a dangerous position to be in.
All the shootings that happen over here and stuff.
I had to my freshman year. I was working
Way
the night
back
shift
when.
at the library. Y'all new gens don't understand how it was. All right,
Wait, how old are you?
I'm 20.
How old are you?
21.
Y'all.
Talking about some new gens.
Y'all.
I'm older than that.
Wait, is this your second year here?
No, this is my first year here.
Exactly.
But this is my third year in college.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
Y'all umsel new gens. Let's
Okay,
let's
yeah.
put it
Yeah,
that
yeah.
way.
Don't do too much.
I'm just
Like-
a new gen
Don't
in
do too
general.
much.
I'm just a
I mean,
young
we
gen.
had-
They age start with a 2. That's a very serious thing for your age. to
At
start
least I
with.
can buy alcohol from a store.
I mean, I can buy alcohol. just
Legally.
Not legally.
Legally.
Okay.
I mean, my girlfriend's over 21, so
Legally. Oh, well.
we can get it legally.
Oh my god, that's not legal though, because she's
Okay,
buying
that's
alcohol for a
fair.
minor.
That's
He
fair,
is
that's fair.
joking. He does not buy alcohol. He does.
No, I do not use substance of any kind.
That was a JKAF. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if y'all listening, if y'all one of them, if y'all are a narc and y'all listening, this is all JK.
In game.
This is for
In-game.
entertainment purposes
Yeah.
only.
Hypothetically.
Well, actually, it's legal for me, so not really. I don't drink, but
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yes, like what is going on
Alcohol.
over here? Because it's just always something getting shut. Like they reduced the dining hall hours, and then they shut down provincial house. Like
Eating on campus is horrible.
I don't do it.
And I mean, I understand. So I just started my job at the Einsteins.
So hard.
It's so bad and it's so poorly mismanaged. The it's not even it's Sodexo. Sodexo so poorly manages our campus dining, and they didn't even know that people are
we
upset
need more
about.
options. Like I'm
Fast food.
What
every
happened?
day.
What
The
happened
problem
to
is
the?
staffing it.
We
have-
need a campus Chick-fil-A. That's where I'm.
I used to go to a campus that had a Chick-fil-A, a Panda Express, a Subway, a ramen store, and
Where'd you go?
it was a college
That's where I
in
need to go.
Arizona.
Okay.
It sucked.
Uh-oh.
It was terrible. There were 75,000 people on campus. 75.
Did you go to like the University of Arizona? Like,
No, Grand Canyon University. It's right down the street. But it was terrible. The roads. It was a college town, right? It was 5 square miles. Well, there was a bread co. They called it Panera.
It's only called Burco here.
It's
That's where
only
It's
called
Saint-
Bread Co. here.
It's St.
It
Louis.
is St.
It's
Louis
St. Louis
Co.
Bread
Because it
Company.
started
And I
here.
used to tell them that. I was like, no, this is St. Louis Bread Company. They're like, what are you talking
We're the
about?
only place with the right name.
Right.
But that's actually like, but don't get us started. on
Oh, yeah,
St.
please
Louis.
don't get us
Yeah.
started. But, yeah, so it was a college town. So there was like, I want to say 35 dorm halls and apartment halls, like in total.
What?
75,000 people on campus.
Okay.
Yeah, every room was at full capacity. My specific
You went there for 2 years?
no, I went there for a semester. That's another story for later though. But yeah, our dorm halls were completely at capacity, and they were completely dirty. We had mold in our shower. We had roommates in a room that was probably smaller than this. And we had a sink in our room with a vanity, and then our bathroom was in our living space. Yeah.
Trenches.
Just yes.
Trenches.
But it was the only hall that was like that. Everybody else had the nicest fucking rooms. But anyway, so that's the point. Why am I talking about this?
Because where is okay.
Oh yeah, dining. Yeah. So I used to ride my bike from my hall down to Panda Express. Why did I find maggots in my orange chicken, bro? That food was trifling. And I mean, the Chick-fil-A didn't even have chicken tenders. The Subway didn't even have lettuce or something like that. We had an Einstein's. We had an Einstein. It was packed.
The problem with
every single
Einstein's,
day.
they need to treat it like a real fast food. They need to have like a menu where you see like
Yeah, they
like
do.
no like where the workers see the orders like on the screen, then they can like exit it off when it's served. So it's
They don't do that, and you get tickets, but you only get tickets for the food and not the drinks. So that's why they always ask you, y'all, like, are any of you waiting on? Yeah, are any of you guys waiting on drinks?
That's true.
And the menu isn't really the problem. It's getting us stocked. Like, we'll be out of breakfast burritos like an hour into the shift, and it's like so bad, and they don't prepare for it at all. And
how is business never prepared for any type of rush?
Like, how bread co be running out of bread?
Like, yeah, like it'd be like the stores and like, come on, we have to be better. Like, what is my tuition going to?
I can't even eat like right. That's why I don't eat here. I don't eat here at all.
You just go off campus?
Yeah.
Take me with you.
Okay.
But even eating on campus is bad because we have like food deserts,
shit.
right? Yeah.
Shit. We have shit.
We live. Where is the nearest grocery store to here?
It's
a Save-A-Lot. There's a Save-A-Lot right down
There's
Nashville Bridge, but that just burnt, or something near it was burnt.
I don't know.
And there was like a big fire.
There's Walmart.
Well, okay,
off
our area, Normandy, where we are, is not a food desert. Because we have the grocery store, we do have the unhealthy food.
There is no grocery store in Normandy outside of that, though. All of the stuff that we could eat, like, is on like St. Charles Rock or the Loop.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I go.
I'm dead. Take me with you.
All right.
I got you. Next episode, because don't you have to go?
I mean, I can talk for a little longer. I'm chilling.
Okay. I wanted to, let's see what I wrote down. I wanted to talk about urban planning, anonymity on social media, and or the American dream. Because this was all like, we all touched. Okay. So I think the American dream has shifted and changed, and I don't think so I think our passports or something about America that says we'll take your poor and we'll take your hungry.
Let me go. I have my passport with me.
Okay.
Actually.
I genuinely don't know where my passport is.
I need a new one. I'm getting one Friday. I'm going out of town.
Where you going?
Dominican Republic. I'm out of town. I get with my rounds.
Big Bird.
Let's see. I don't know.
Or maybe it's on like the Statue of Liberty or something.
I think it's on the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, okay. But it's like the American dream was you could be an immigrant, you could be poor.
I think it was the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, and I think this, our gift from France.
The whole thing was like freedom.
Yeah. And I think the American dream has shifted, and I don't think that it's really like I don't see anybody going from poor to even high middle class. So you definitely not jumping up the ranks from poor to upper echelon of society. Like
Capitalism
I don't see that.
has failed us, or we failed capitalism. It's one or the other.
Also, don't you know how we're going into like a minimalist era?
I hate that. I hate that so bad.
I don't think we could be a capitalist society and minimalist, because capitalism is about more, bigger, more.
Maximalist culture.
Yeah.
We are trying to get red, white, and blue land, but even we're doing
the Gulf of America.
The Gulf of America. Please. I still cannot believe that's a real thing.
I literally looked at my Apple Maps and it said Gulf of America, and I almost cried.
Okay, but
look, bro,
why wasn't it called that in the first? Like, who named it? I didn't know we had naming rights over a body of water.
I didn't know either.
It's a common thing, in other parts of the world, like bodies of water, and they do it based on country. I can't remember, Gulf of America. I saw an example of, some countries call the Red Sea different things, and so depending on your...
Okay.
It's like culture, but changing it entirely.
Well, I mean, not for Mexicans, but it's still bad, but that's why we have the power, right? Because it's been done before, but it's still dumb.
It's like, why? What was
okay,
the point?
but how does it being named the Gulf of America lower my taxes or grocery prices?
At all.
It doesn't. It starts trade wars with Mexico. Yeah.
As if we didn't already have fucking problems with Mexico.
It's horrible.
Oh my, borders are not real unless we're separated by a body of water. Like,
I mean, okay, kind of. I feel like they're not separated unless there's like a gate.
yeah. I mean, like, obviously,
Like you can get through states.
like, obviously the European countries, like, they don't speak the same language usually, so obviously that's like real type of borders. But
same with Africa.
yeah, like in all of those countries, like there are language barriers, which is why the borders are real. But it's like, this is like such a non-issue. The Gulf of America.
Of all the things you could have did, that's what you did. Didn't help nobody.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you think about the American dream?
I was gonna ask you two a question because obviously the American dream has been different
For us.
for you two, and I mean even So I'll stop while rambling. The question was, do you believe that the American dream ever truly existed?
For people that look like you, yeah.
For people that look like me, what about for people that look like you?
It's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
It
was a nightmare.
just the first dream that African Americans had in America was not being enslaved.
Mm-hmm.
We got that. The second dream was equal rights.
Mm-hmm. Got that.
We got that in legislation. I would argue that we have not got that in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're on dream number 2. I will argue that we're still on dream number 2.
I would say that because of my mixed heritage, the American dream has looked different in every single aspect of my genetic lineage. But since my major like ethnicity is African American, I will say I agree with Brooke.
So
I'm sorry, Heaven.
So you're 50, 25, and 25? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'd say for Black people, yes, it was a nightmare, and there was no such thing because that wasn't even there. They didn't even have equal rights up until 1964, and the American dream was like post World War II, during the 1950s. So it was like the whole 2-parent household, 2.5 children, white picket fence, 9-to-5 job.
America is a country that has managed to be at war within itself for almost its entirety and still be at the front of the world because other countries went to war too. Like, we went from the American Revolution to the Civil War, and I think that if World War I didn't happen, people would have seen America for what it was. But then we saved the war, so then we got held to the standard, and then it came again. So I think America in itself has managed to stay divided, but also be the quote unquote leaders of the free world. And I think, we're like the only country that can do that could be fighting with itself all the time and still.
But I think that's what
true.
makes this country what it is because we do have the ability to be diverse and still have those adversities because we don't know anything else other than this.
This
is a perfect example of the diversity that America includes. Like, but again, it wasn't always this way, and it wasn't this way up in like 67 years ago.
You're gonna be one of the first old mixed people.
Yeah, imagine it.
Yeah, the oldest mixed, like, obviously, like,
they're in their 60s, but
I mean, like,
of them were
I'm talking about, like, our generation's gonna be the first one that's like in mass number.
Actually, that's not true. There are a lot. Okay. During our parents' generation, right? Are your parents Gen X or millennials?
They're in the 40s.
So, are they millennials or Gen X?
I think they're Gen X.
Okay.
But
So
There's no way millennials have Gen Z kids, because that's just
They do.
one. How old are
millennials were 1980s
what?
and 1990s.
Well, okay,
Like
Gen Z
to
started.
1995.
Yeah, Gen Z started in 95 and ended in what, 13?
2015.
Oh, okay.
They're a lot. I feel
Millennials
like
don't have kids our age unless they were like
but they're still
14.
Gen X. They're still, I'm sorry, Gen Z kids.
Yeah.
But
okay.
so in 1967 there was Love versus Virginia, which was
interracial marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so right after that there was a huge influx of mixed interracial children. So there are a lot of mixed adults. There are more mixed adults that are Gen X than people think because they look different. And like they're pretty hard to point out. Like me, I'm very clearly mixed. Like I'm very racially ambiguous. But when it comes to older mixed people, you don't look at them and they're like, some people think that like they really come across looking like Latino or something. Like they're very, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not, they are very racially ambiguous. Like it's interesting because me personally, I've never met any mixed person older than,
not that you know.
Exactly, right? Like that I'm able to identify. And so I wonder how that's gonna like look in the future because they said by 2050 90% of the population will be mixed or something like that. I don't know if it's 90, but it's like a very high number because more mixed people are being born because of the whole influx of, you know what, it's okay to love people that don't look like you.
You know what I think a big problem in society is? Anonymity. Being able to say what you want to say online and not having to show your face. Like when you could put on a white hood, just go, or a black mask and just go around and do whatever. I think when I see opinions on social media, if you're not showing your face, I'm not taking you serious. Because I need you to, because I need you to stand on that when you at your place of employment and they ask you about your tweets. I need you to stand on it because that's what you mean.
Dox them.
So here's a good example of that. I told you about the conversation that I had with my tutor. His boss is an older Jewish woman, and he told me that he thought that it was okay for someone to come up and do a Nazi salute in my face. And I was like, your boss is an older Jewish woman who had her parents die, like her parents and her family experienced the Holocaust. Like, I was like, have you told her this? She's like, no, she's my boss. I'm not. I was like, I could tell her right now. Now, I don't know because she's also like filthy rich, so she might not care, but she should.
It's the principle.
Yeah, it's the principle of it.
That's just weird.
Yes, the fear of consequences. If you ever met a little kid,
it's not there.
if you little kids, if they know that they're not going to get in trouble, they're going to do it. And that's the same with that does not change with your age. The fear of consequences is what keeps people in control. And when you know you're not going to get in trouble, when you know your parents out of town and you can do whatever, think about that.
And I think America has showed white supremacists and MAGA people that there are no consequences. Like, the January 6th rioters broke into the Capitol and were pardoned not even 10 years later. Like, that really shows that you can do whatever Trump...
That's domestic terrorism. Like, that's one of the worst things you can do to the country. Like, this is not about a certain party. This is not about a demographic. This is an act of terrorism on your great country that you claim to love, and you doing like.
And thank you for bringing that up, Evan, because I saw a video on TikTok, I'd say 2 weeks ago, and it was a video of neo-Nazis on a highway.
Here, right?
No.
There was one here.
Yeah, I heard about that, but no, this is somewhere else. And
here is in St. Louis, Missouri?
Here is in America.
Here is in my neighborhood.
Do you live in like a Jewish neighborhood?
No. But I sorry I interrupted you.
Are Jewish neighborhoods a thing in St. Louis?
Yeah. Union City is like 30% Jewish communities, isn't it? Yeah.
It has to do with like where we settled historically, like, you know, after we came to America. Like, and it's even that way with like cities. Like St. Louis is really big because we were on the Mississippi, so you had people from New Orleans go upstream to, you know, to here. And it was the same with Milwaukee, where my family is from. So yeah.
So the video was police body cam footage of neo-Nazis on a freeway, like, you know, like a bridge, like over the freeway, with, you know, swastika flags and whatnot, Nazi Germany. And black people were running up and trying to fight them. And the...
Kings and queens, as
yes,
they should.
Absolutely. But the police fought back against the black people. And
obviously they're going to protect their cousins.
That part. And they were like, "What are you fighting us for?" And the neo-Nazis were like, "Can we get a police escort back home? We're terrified for our safety." And they were like, "Yeah, absolutely." And the funny thing about it was, okay, when I say funny, it wasn't ha funny. It was like, what the fuck? But it was, one of the men was like, "Why are you protecting them?" And the police officer was like, "It's not worth it. It's not worth it." He's like, "You know it is. When is it going to be worth it? When is this going to stop?"
It's only worth it to them when it's them being affected by it. Okay, before you gotta go, I gotta hit on this one point. I saw a video. It was like, okay, so we know that after World War I, Germany, the country had to foot the bill the entire war, which is why they got led into. They were so poor that a fascist leader was the perfect thing for them because it gave them a solution and it gave them a scapegoat.
Right.
America, we're not facing a bill of a war like this. So I think, so when we look at the average German citizen who was so broke and destitute, and we say, if I was in this situation and this one man offered a vast solution, and if you know how charming dictators are, no one could really say, this, I could never do what they did. No one, but when you look at the state of America, we do have a middle class. We do have people who are on the rise. We're not as destitute. And if we're doing similar things to them, I think the way history is going to look at us is in a much worse light. Because we don't have a reason. Like, I'm not, obviously, Nazi Germany is not okay. But it's like, I think the way that the America's going to be looked at is, it's like...
Mm-hmm. I would disagree in the fact that we don't have something to blame it on. I think we have to blame it on two things. One is the inflation caused by COVID and the amount of death that happened there. But also what we are facing now is late stage capitalism. And there are a lot of people who are facing the repercussions of that.
I mean,
and looking at the people,
not nothing to blame. I mean, but it's like, Germany did not start.
Yeah, we didn't have to pay billions of dollars for a loaf of bread, and I understand that. And obviously this is not as bad, right? But you have people who are struggling economically and siding with the wrong people. They're looking at this $1 trillion businessman saying, "Oh, he's gonna make America, like, you know, he knows how to make money." But the thing is that he never, like, and so you're looking at they're looking at these people who have profited off of their suffering and saying, "Oh, I want to be like them. I'm gonna elect them as a leader." But all they're gonna do is make it worse. And so I think that's really the reason that we're falling into this. But that's just my opinion, obviously. And, you know, I'm not an economics expert, so.
And where the business majors at? Come on the show. You know how this works. Okay, well, thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Yep.
Me as well.